jump, left a very nice, cushy job, and took a sabbatical, went to Silicon Valley. One of the companies that I first worked for was H2O.ai, who are also automating this space. So what I'm going to talk about is if you're here for AI, or no matter any kind of audiences or any kind of conversations you get into, you're likely to fall into one of three categories. You are either a naysayer, so you still think it's hype, hopefully not too many people, but you either think it's a hype, or you're worried, and a lot of people, trust me, are worried as to what it's going to do to my job, what's my job going to look like. Or, once again, depending on your situation, you're looking at, like I did, how do I participate in the AI economy? So hopefully I can share some of my journey as an outsider. And when I started it, it was pretty scary. It's, I'm 52 years old, I'm going to try to learn R programming and, learn data science, statistics. I knew some statistics, but left that a long time ago. But once I got into it, what I learned was it's none of that. So hopefully I'm going to share some of those. I'm going to cover those three topics: the hype, why it's not hype. We are on the edge of a change comparable to the rise of human life on Earth. Trust me, that is not an overstatement at all. That is a statement that is very true. Now, what does it feel like to stand at the edge of that transformational change that's about to be as big as human life on Earth? It looks like a pretty scary place. But something about standing on a curve is that you cannot see to the right of it. So even though it's a very scary place where we're about to hit that exponent, what most of us think is something like that. But what is about to happen or is already happening is equivalent to that. So just to make my point as to why, because every time something new like that happens, nothing like this has ever happened in a long time. So it's very likely to say, yeah, it's just going to be hype. I've never seen an exponential curve like that. Let's go back into history and we all understand history and we understand mathematics. We'll all come to the conclusion that this is happening and it's not hype. So just to look at that story, think of going back, so we're in 2017, think that we take a time machine and take a journey back about 250, 260 years ago at the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, sometime in, let's say, 1760, 1750 or so, and we bring this one dude back from that age into 2017 and have him walk around Toronto, and he sees these little boxes driving on wheels going all around, sees the fact that you can talk to someone who is physically not there. I'm talking to someone who this morning was on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean. I can listen to a music that was recorded by the Beatles in 1960, and above all, these square cubes that people are walking around with, where I can draw a blue dot that tells me where I'm standing. What do you think is likely to happen with that person? He's definitely going to be shocked, but I would argue that the shock will be such that it is very likely to kill him. It'll be so shocking. So let's try to do the same thing. Now this guy, it's an imaginary journey, but he gets jealous about, oh, these guys did such a crazy thing. Let me go back 250 years. So if he takes that 750 to 1500, goes back 250 years, and brings a dude back from there to 1750, what is he likely to see? Yeah, they're going to see some, you've figured out physics, some basic stuff. Yes, you've redrawn some maps of the countries, Europe looks different. There'll be some changes, but nothing to the level that would cause him to die. Now for that person to cause the amount of shock that we gave the dude that we brought from 1750, he will have to probably go back 12,000 BC, the beginning of the agricultural age, to see the same amount, to see things like what is a house, to experience those things, he would have to go back 12,000 years. Now, if we keep doing that, and this guy said, okay, let me go back to 24,000 BC. The 24,000 BC dude will come into 12,000 BC and would say, what have you done? Not much. Reality is, for him to have the same amount of shock, he'll have to go back 100,000 years so that he brings somebody from 100,000 years ago and they experience something called human speaking and fire. He's likely to cause that amount of shock which could cause this person to die. So if we think of that unit of progress, where progress has been so much that a person taking that time machine journey is likely to die, and we call it a die progress unit. The first progress unit took 100,000 years, the next one took 12,000, and the next one from the Industrial Revolution when it began to now only took 250 years. So this phenomena is what Ray Kurzweil, some of you might have heard of him, a futurist, calls the law of accelerating returns. And it's only natural. We made progress, we developed tools, we learned something, and we use those tools to create more things, and it accelerates. This is a natural phenomena, so it is mathematically is what is happening. Some of you have heard about Moore's law, right? Moore's law has already become irrelevant because it wasn't thinking of things like AI. The other thing that's happening is things like social networks. You heard about that, which is, the previous progress was made by organizations. Now progress can be made by humans, individuals. I can create something and I can put it on GitHub and I can create an API for it, you can share it, you can create something. So it's going to further accelerate. So hopefully those who think it's hype have been convinced that it's not. Let's move on to the next one. What's that going to do to my job? Jobs are going to disappear, robots are going to run the world. There are all sorts of numbers, and this is not just trivia or coffee shop talk or water cooler talk. This is people are putting out statistics about 40% jobs will be gone, and this will be gone, and that will be gone, and no matter which type of doomsday hype you look at, it talks about it's going to cause massive unemployment. To make that point, let's take a historical journey again, because this has happened before. This is the world I live in. So what the company that I started, what we're doing is industrial IoT, manufacturing automation, simply taking the next journey of manufacturing automation. So when the Industrial Revolution began, the steam engine, when textile factories in the UK got automated, there were strikes. There were people saying, we're going to lose our jobs, we're going to go hungry, how are we going to feed our children? Just look at a couple of things. The world population at that time was under 1 billion. The world GDP average per capita was $600. So we've gone through that revolution, we've gone through that evolution, we automated more, we are feeding a much bigger world, we have created more jobs for those many people. So the point here is that the nature of work changes. So those textile workers who were striking, eventually what happened was once textile mills were automated, there was more textiles created, more demand for textiles grew, and there were actually more people working in textile plants in the world. Just the nature of what they did there changed. So that again, it's what we would be doing or what the nature of change will look like. I can't say. There are plenty of theories about that. But if you look at that industrial revolution, beginning with the steam engine, up until now, and now let's look at what AI is doing, it is simply an evolution of that automation. We were automating manual tasks. Now we're automating cognitive tasks. So a very simple definition of AI that I give is it's automation of cognition, right? So because it can be done at scale, it can be done using parallel processing, cloud technologies, and so on and so forth. But it's not, so you've probably seen surveys, you've read articles which talk about the top 70 professions that are likely to be hit, which profession will be hit, 50% jobs will be lost here, only 1% will be lost here. If you forget what type of profession is, the best way to look at, because we are doing automation of cognition, is is the routine stuff is what will get automated, and I would say should get automated. Who here likes routine? I don't think anybody does. So the vulnerability, if regardless of the profession you're in, it's more about automation of routine tasks, and I think Mark mentioned that it's not automating things that computers cannot do. So, getting to the third part of the topic. So, what should we do? To participate in this AI economy, regardless of what profession you're in, should we all become data scientists? And if we do, and looking at that acceleration in terms of how technology evolves, the same way the nature of the work is going to evolve much faster. So even if we all chose to become data scientists, because Mark said there are unfilled, fulfilled positions, people don't have enough data scientists, what's the likelihood that 2, 3, 5 years from now, no one will need data scientists? Right? You've probably seen this. AI to create AI. Data Robot is doing that. H2O is doing driverless AI. We are doing automated AI for industrial work. So would that be the path for us to take in our job? So what the job of the future would look like, you can read any number of theories. The way I like to relate to it is one generation, your father, maybe go 2 generations, your grandfather, if you had told them, hey, I'll be developing mobile apps, they would say, what the hell is that? Did anybody know of a profession called mobile app developer? We couldn't have imagined that at that point in time, so we don't know what it's going to look like. So how do we say we stay relevant in this AI economy in our professions? I'm sure you've heard about Maslow. So just like technology and automation is evolving, I look at it as it's going along with human evolution. And human evolution is, at the end of the day, as we evolve as humans, the most valuable work we want to do is that of imagination and creativity, which is something that AI, machine learning, I will argue, at least I cannot imagine an AI or a robot doing any imagination or creativity. So I try to look at when I talk to, including my daughter, my nephews, some of my colleagues, some of the people that work for me, hey, what should I do, what should I be doing? And what I tell them is essentially, and I think Mark touched on that, the purpose of participating in an AI economy is not to leave what you're doing to participate in an AI economy. The goal is to bring AI to the job that you're doing. So that starts with learning. And learning has become so much easier. MOOC type of platforms, anybody can learn anything that you want. And I would say the future belongs to solopreneurs. That is very likely to happen. Once blockchain becomes prevalent, APIs become even more prevalent, each one of us can create what we want and we can share it with the world. We don't need large organizations or supply chains to distribute that. But the biggest part, I would say, is the profession of an Imagineer. So no matter what we do, if we move on to that role of Imagineer, and how do you begin with that? Now, rather than somebody else looking at which parts of what you do are routine and should be automated with AI, aren't you in the best position to think of that? Isn't that being an Imagineer to say, this part of what I do is routine, it should be automated, and you might be the best person to say how it should be automated. And I was having a conversation with someone earlier, and I used this analogy. When spreadsheets became a great tool, Excel or whatever spreadsheet it might be, did we all go and say, I've become a spreadsheet expert? No. The spreadsheet became a great tool for us to do our job. So I look at it that way. AI is just the tool. You're the one who will wield it and create the next level of automation. Thank you.